A first call should be a discovery call. A first call shouldn't even bring your products to the yard, right? The true sales professionals, the ones that I've witnessed when I've done it myself, they've been the people who literally don't say anything about their company, their product, their service, or anything else. And they rather start their discovery calls with just an easy interaction with human beings having a conversation. Yeah, Sales Ascender, what is happening today? I hope you're doing amazing, and let's just jump right into it. Andrea asks, Sean, I keep getting ghosted after my first discovery call. During the calls, I show prospects exactly how I fix issues. Why does this seem to always happen to me? Andrea, this is a fantastic question. It really comes back to a lesson that I learned in professional selling called "Don't Spill Your Candy in the Lobby." Before I learned this lesson, when I was selling like for my electronics company that I ran, I would remember that I would go into these engineering boardrooms and I would sit down with all these guys and I would start talking about all the stuff that our facility, our manufacturing facility could do, all the features, all the benefits, exactly how we solved like all the problems when it was related to the world that we played in. And so what my company actually did was take the bare, what they call a PC card, which is just the printed wired assembly, PWB, just a printed wired board. And then our company would actually put all the little components on the circuit board, test it, make sure it was good, and then ship it to the company. And then they would put it into the product and then ship, right? So during these presentations, I would go into these boardrooms, or I'd go in and I'd meet with a purchasing person or an engineer, or whoever I was talking with. And before I learned this lesson, I would always just say, hey, my stuff is the best. Here's why. This is my firm. This is all that I can do. This is all blah, 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 verbal diarrhea all over the person that I was talking with. And what I found was that didn't work. And I kept doing it and I kept doing it. And all these other traditional salespeople do that all the time, still to this day, simply because they weren't schooled in like the right way to start the process or the flow or the sales funnel or whatever you want to call it, right? So the lesson is, don't spill your candy in the lobby. Andrea, as you're getting ghosted after your first discovery call, and based on the conversations that I had with you, you were typically saying, hey, like I looked at your presentation. It's amazing. It's got everything that you could possibly ever want in there. And what I would find in the conversations that I would have was simply people would get the glaze over eyes and they would stop listening and they'd be like, I just don't want to hear what you have to say. It hurts my ears because you just keep talking about things that are not relevant to me. So the secret in how to not get ghosted after your discovery call is change the flow of your sales process, sales cycle. Okay. So in your world, I know that it's a 2-call close. That means you have an initial call where you kind of get to know each other. And then you should have a secondary call, which should be you meeting the challenges of the prospect and the problem that they have in the place that they're sitting. And so when we look at the infrastructure in that method, then what we're going to understand is literally, here's what happened to me. When I changed this, I went from verbally diarrheaing all over everybody for the first meeting that I was in with them. And then I changed this after I learned this rule. And it's very simple. It's very easy to do. A first call should be a discovery call. A first call shouldn't even bring your products to the yard, right? The true sales professionals, the ones that I've witnessed when I've done it myself, they've been the people who literally don't say anything about their company, their product, their service, or anything else. And they rather start their discovery calls with just an easy interaction with human beings having a conversation. This is the piece where I think a lot of people, as they go into professional sales or they go into sales or whatever, they start feeling slimy and salesy and all these things, and these words creep up. And it's because they're doing something that's not natural and it doesn't feel right. And that's where that whole driver of, ooh, like this doesn't even, it hurts to go down this path. I don't want to do it. So the secret to this is, instead of coming into the first meeting and saying, here's my show and tell, here's every single thing that I do, reserve that stuff for the second meeting in a specific fashion that's going to meet just the pain points of your prospect. The first call should literally be, hey, I want to learn more about your business to see if what I do is a fit for what you do. Likewise, I'd like to, I'm sure you're going to have questions for me about what I do, and that's fine. We'll get through that stuff. But then at the end, a couple of things are going to happen. Either we're going to decide that, hey, I can really solve some of the issues that you're having, or I can't. And either way, it's fine with me, right? And if we decide that I can't, then I want to know exactly how do I refer business to you, because that's always a piece that everybody wants. And I have a pretty deep network. I'd be happy to do that with you. And so when you set the rules of the game this way in the first sales call, that's why it's very important to set the rules so you become the trusted advisor. And now the conversation has a totally different meaning. It's like, hey, well, tell me what you do. The prospect sitting there, hey, tell me what you do. And then now you're forced to show and tell. And then the prospect's like, not interested. And you as the salesperson have never even understood any problems or anything about the other person's business. Literally, if you're in professional sales, that means the difference between being a traditional salesperson and being a sales professional is understanding that you solve problems, right? And so in order to solve a problem, we don't just look at like the surface issues of what, the problem that's being, what's the surface issue. We got to get to the root of the issue, and we got to drive in and solve that problem. The only way to do that in a sales environment is literally to question the hell out of your prospect to the point where you know exactly what the source of the pain or the problem is, where it's coming from, and how long they've been trying to fix it. What have they tried to do to solve it? And you want to go in as a detective in the first call, because if you can do this, then literally you will identify, oh, okay, well, it's just this. For example, yesterday I was having a sales call, my very first sales call with a new prospect for our mastermind. And as I was going through the conversation with him, I very quickly realized just by asking questions. Now, I hadn't shared anything about what we do. Basically, he said, I don't even know what you guys are or what you do. I said, that's okay. We're just going to learn about each other today. I'm going to ask you some questions. I'm sure you're going to have some for me, like you said. And at the end, we're going to see if we're fit. And that was literally how we started the phone call. And then I just started asking, tell me about your business. Where are you now? Where are you trying to get to? Okay, what's the thing holding you back? And now I'm right into that conversation of, oh, that's holding you back. That's really interesting. Tell me more about that. And as soon as you start that process with a prospect, what's going to happen is their headspace goes, oh my God, like he's actually asking, or she's actually asking me about my issues. And so the whole dynamic of the conversation is more of a human to human interaction, where it's just like a genuine concern, curiosity, and calm confidence of, hey, if you have this problem, I can solve it, but I got to understand if you have the problem or you don't. And when you tee up your first sales call, again, the first discovery call, as Andrea is talking about here, when you tee it up in that fashion, what you'll find is that the trust factor is way higher. You've positioned yourself in a way that they're going to be respectful of you. And then literally you have the power as the sales professional to say, listen, I can either solve this problem or I can't. And I'll be the first to tell you that I can't do it because, listen, I only get into business with people that I know I can make a big impact with. And that takes all the pressure off, all the salesy and slimy feelings go away. And it's just like, hey, tell me about your business. Like, what are you trying to accomplish? I know the thing that I solve and I'm really good at it. And I got to see if you have that problem. Because if you don't have it, like, it doesn't make sense. And when you have a very frank and straightforward conversation like that, you'll see that people are like, oh my God, this is great. Now, here's how the presentation and all this stuff, Andrea, don't worry, because I know you put a tremendous amount of time into that presentation and it's brilliant. And you should use it. But here's how. When you're in your first discovery call, you're going to design or discover, I should say, a discovery call to discover, hey, they have this one problem that you solve. You probably solved 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 or 15, 20 problems. Yesterday, the guy I was speaking with, he was like, yeah, I am brilliant in this space. I can solve every problem from Sunday to Monday. And but then I said, well, what's happening? And he said, well, I literally just don't know how to get in front of people. I was like, oh, okay, cool. We can fix that problem, no problem. I do that. I'm a master at that. Let's talk about that later. And so I just kept digging, found it. Okay, so now I knew that was his major problem. And then I found out his second problem was a little more around accountability. And so I knew that these were the 2 problems that he was struggling with in our discovery call. And I literally just told him, I said, hey, I think you have this problem, and I think you have this problem. Is that an accurate statement? Yes. Okay, cool. What do you want to solve those things? Absolutely. Okay, great. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the stuff that I've discovered today from our first call. I'm going to go back and I'm going to sit with my team and we're going to design a custom strategy that I'm going to bring back to you in about 24 to 48 hours. And I'm going to present that to you based on these 2 problems that I know that I can solve 100%. And if it's a fit for you, we'll just move forward. Does that sound like a plan? And that's at the end of the discovery call. And when you say it like that, then the prospect's going to be like, that's amazing. You're going to solve something totally custom for me. That's awesome. Yes. So then you go back and you put together your presentation. Now you've already got this presentation put together, Andrea. It's perfect. And then you just go through your slides and you figure out what are the slides they need to see in order to solve the 2 problems or the 3 problems you found during the discovery call. And when you go into your second call, you say, hey, listen, I've got this full pitch deck. It's amazing. I'm going to go through just the pieces that I know that are going to serve you well. I'll send you the whole thing afterwards so you can go through it. But I think what's really important is based on our conversation from our first meeting, you said you had this problem and this problem. I'm going to show you exactly how we're going to address that. Hang on one sec. I got to close my door. Okay, cool. So then as you start the second conversation, you literally say, great. During our first during our first conversation, you said this in this problem. Okay. So our company is this, we do this, we're really good at this. And then literally, I say, I'm just going to skip through a few of these slides right to this slide. This one slide in your presentation deck, Andrea, is going to solve the first problem that the person had. And you say, let's talk about this. Here's how we would actually attack that problem. And then you said your second problem was this. And this is the next slide in my deck as you keep shuffling, and you get to the next deck and you're like, this one is actually going to solve the other problem. Now, based on what you've just seen today, Mrs. Prospect, Mr. Prospect, is this something you think you can do? Because I know we can solve it within the budget range. I know we can knock these problems off the planet for you, and it's not going to be an issue. It's going to take about this amount of time, and you're buying speed. So literally, is this something you think you can do? And by the end, if you've done this right and teed it all up, the cycle of sales time will be shorter. You'll be addressing pain points that your prospect has specifically, and they'll feel like it's a total custom solution. And then they'll say, oh my gosh, yes, this is exactly what I'm wanting. Or some objection will pop up in their head. They'll say, well, can you tell me more about this? And I feel like this is my other problem. And that's fine. Either way that it goes, then you can say, well, that's interesting. Tell me more about that. Now that we're in this conversation, let me learn more about this problem. I probably have something that I can use to solve that too. And literally by the end of the conversation, you'll be in a place where they know that you can solve their problems. They know everything they need to know that you are the right selection and the right choice. And then at the end of the day, you can move forward and knock it out of the park for them. So Andrea, I hope that helps. Again, don't spill your candy in the lobby during your first call. If you're on a discovery call, make it a discovery call with you asking questions rather than presenting the show and tell, tap and dance. We don't want to do that in the first call ever. It's a bad choice. So with that said, I hope that helps you. Happy Thursday. I love your face.